Okay, let's start with something we've all felt. You're scrolling through your phone, minding your own business, and boom! A notification pops up. 12 years ago today, you see a photo of yourself at 19, wearing a questionable hat and making a joke that, well, let's just say it hasn't aged well. Normally, you'd just cringe and swipe away. But here's where 2026 gets weird. While you're cringing, an AI recruiter for that dream job you applied for is currently scraping that exact post. They aren't looking for nostalgia. They're building what's called a permanent psychometric profile. They don't see a kid growing up, they see a data point that suggests behavioral instability. They're using predictive analytics to decide if you're a flight risk based on a mood you had a decade ago. This is what I call temporal flattening. In the digital age, your past isn't behind you, it's standing right next to you, breathing down your neck. It's like we're the first generation in human history forbidden from actually being new. We're tethered to every metadata scrap of our former selves, turning our identity into this permanent, unedible archive that we have to manage like a full-time PR firm. I call it identity vertigo. It's that dizzying realization that your digital self is a parasite you can't kill. You want to evolve, but the server won't let you. You're trying to run toward the future, but you're wearing an infinite digital anchor. It's exhausting, right? Honestly, when I first realized how deep this tracking goes, how your credit score, your job prospects, and even your dating pool are being filtered through your ghost, I had to put my phone in a drawer for 2 days. But here's the thing. The ancients saw this coming. They had a technology for this. They called it the river Lethe. In Greek mythology, when souls were ready to be reincarnated, they had to take a trip to the underworld and drink from the river Lethe. Literally means oblivion or forgetting. Now, we usually think of forgetting as a bug, a failure of the brain. But to the Greeks, it was a sacred technology. You couldn't start a new life while carrying the baggage of the old one. Forgetting wasn't a loss, it was the necessary reboot for existence. But in 2026, we are denied the drink of Lethe. We are forced to remember everything. This reminds me of a mind-blowing short story by Jorge Luis Borges called Funes the Memorious. It's about a man who, after an accident, remembers everything. Every leaf on every tree he's ever seen. Every smell, every stray thought from 3 p.m. on a random Tuesday in 1994. Sounds like a superpower, right? Wrong. Borges shows us that Funes is actually paralyzed. He can't think, because to think is to generalize. To think is to forget differences, to abstract, to say this is a tree, instead of cataloging every individual vein in every individual leaf. A perfect memory doesn't make you smarter. It makes you a prisoner of trivia. Paul Ricoeur, a heavy hitter in 20th century philosophy, argued that a memory that preserves everything wouldn't be memory at all. It would just be a doubling of the present. If you can't filter out your past, you aren't living a life. You're just managing a crowded, suffocating data set. You're Funes, but instead of remembering leaves, you're forced to remember every embarrassing tweet and every phase you've long outgrown. We've outsourced our memory to the cloud, and the cloud has no mercy. It has no sense of growth or redemption. To an algorithm, the you from 2018 is just as relevant as the you sitting here right now. It's a nightmare of permanence. So if the internet is the modern version of Funes, we need a philosopher who knows how to light a bonfire. Enter Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche had this concept called active forgetfulness. He didn't see forgetting as a passive accident, he saw it as a vital digestive power. Think about it, if your body didn't digest food and get rid of the waste, you die from the inside out. Nietzsche argued the mind is exactly the same. If you don't digest your experiences, meaning if you don't process them and then discard the waste, they rot inside you. He called this resentment. Now look at your Instagram feed. The algorithm is basically an externalized version of what Nietzsche called the eternal recurrence. It forces you to repeat your past forever by showing you the same types of people, the same products, and the same ideas you liked 5 years ago. It traps you in a recursive loop. Breaking that loop isn't just a digital detox, it's an act of war against your own data double. Nietzsche's point was that those who cannot forget are doomed to remain who they were. True freedom isn't the ability to remember your history, it's the power to discard it so you can become something else entirely. Here's the intellectual shocker. Your past isn't a lesson for your future anymore. In 2026, your past is a legal document being used to arrest your evolution. It's being used to predict your behavior before you even have a chance to change your mind. So let me ask you, who are you without your search history? If I wiped your digital slate clean right now, would you even know how to define yourself? It's a terrifying question because we've started using our archives as a substitute for our actual character. We're so busy curating the ghost of who we were that we've forgotten how to be the author of who we are.
Okay, enough theory. How do we actually fight back? How do we take a sip of that river Lethe in a world that's constantly recording? We need what I call digital alchemy. First, algorithm poisoning. This is my absolute favorite. Spend 10 minutes a week searching for things you absolutely hate or have zero interest in. Are you a minimalist? Search for maximalist Victorian wallpaper and cluttered antique shops. Do you hate sports?
Watch 3 hours of curling tutorials or deep-sea fishing vlogs. You're scrambling your data double, you're making yourself unpredictable to the bots. And in doing so, you reclaim a little bit of your identity flexibility. Second, the digital burn. Every year, pick one major social platform and just delete it. I don't mean deactivate or take a break. I mean the nuclear option. Force your social circle to meet the current you, not the version of you they've been following for a decade. There is a massive psychological power in starting fresh without a trail. And third, the 24-hour Lethe protocol. One day a month, go completely device-free and go somewhere where nobody knows your name. Interact with strangers as a blank slate practice being a nobody. Because when you're a nobody, you're free to be anybody. Science actually backs this up. Cognitive psychology talks about directed forgetting as a high-energy brain process essential for emotional regulation. Clearing your mental cache isn't lazy, it's a biological necessity for creativity. You can't paint a masterpiece on a canvas that's already covered in 10 years of doodles. You have to prime the canvas. You have to earn the right to forget. At the end of the day, philosophy reveals a beautiful, uncomfortable paradox. You are only free to the extent that you can discard your previous definitions. If you are 100% consistent with who you were yesterday, you aren't growing. You're just repeating. There's a viral song out right now called Catched Love about falling in love with someone's 2018 digital archive instead of their 2026 physical self. It's tragic, right? But we do it to ourselves every day. We fall in love with our own archives, our own glory days, or even our own past traumas. We stay in the safe lanes the algorithm built for us because we're afraid of the algorithmic anomaly, but the most real parts of your life are the ones the censors can't see. Your secrets, your sudden changes of heart, your unproductive hobbies, those are the cracks where the light gets in. You're not a museum of your own mistakes. You're not a psychometric profile for some AI to analyze. You are the architect of what happens next. The internet never forgets, but you must stop being the curator of your own ghost and start being the author of your future. So, here's the final question I want to leave you with, and I want you to be honest with yourself. If the internet completely forgot you existed tomorrow, if every photo, every post, every data point was just gone, would you feel relieved or would you feel terrified? Think about that for a second. We'll be back next week to explore another glitch in the human matrix. Stay curious, stay unpredictable, and for God's sake, go delete something.